they shall enter into my rest. As we continue on in our meditation on the letter to the Hebrews, right now we're in the beginning of chapter 4. And the writer or the homilist, like I said to the Frackville people, many think that this letter to the Hebrews is actually a sermon, a homily, rather than an actual letter. But anyways, in this sermon, he continues to reflect on Psalm number 95, Psalm 95. And that psalm is about both the praise and a warning. Okay, the praise of how God delivered them from the Egyptians, how God saved them from slavery, but a warning that while they're in the wilderness, they continue to doubt the works of God. Okay, so despite all the miraculous things they have seen in their journey, they still have these moments of doubt, And one in particular that I think 95 refers to is when they're at the border of the promised land. And they see the enemies and how big the enemies are, and they become afraid. And they start rebuking God for bringing them, to this point to begin with. Why did God lead us out of Egypt just to get slaughtered by these people? It was kind of their mentality. They failed to trust in God. And so Psalm 95 ends with the phrase, "They shall not enter into my rest." Okay, so what is the rest? For you biblical scholars out there, you might immediately recall that in the story of creation, that on day 7, what did God do? God rested. Okay, and so that's where the beginnings of this idea of rest and God and entering into God's rest begins. You notice that on day 7, when God rests, that the first 6 days all had an end to them. That's, I don't know the exact phrasing, but it's like, the end of the first day, and then it moves on to the second day. But in the 7th day, there's no end. It's just God's rest. The 7th day is all about eternity. And eternity and God in the 7th day and God's purpose for man on the 7th day is to enter into that eternity with him, to enter into the covenant with him. So the 7th day was also the day of the covenant, the day where man puts aside the work and enters into relationship with God. And then Jesus Christ is the fulfillment of the 7th day, that now his passion, death, and resurrection, through him in relationship with him, man enters into the 7th day. So again, elsewhere in the gospel, Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon you, for my burden is easy, my burden is light, right? Come to me, all who are labored on, I will give you rest." Okay? Again, referring to the rest of the covenant. And so all this is saying, what Hebrews is saying to us in this first reading, he ends the first reading with, "Therefore, let us strive to enter into that rest, so that no one may fall after the example of disobedience." Okay, so the homilist from Hebrews here is asking us to enter into the rest, to not lose faith, okay, like the Israelites did in the wilderness. Don't lose trust. Enter into the merciful love of God and cling on to it and don't let go. Okay, the 7th day begins now. Okay, you gotta remember that. The 7th day begins now. It's not something we wait for. But the covenant, the relationship, all that starts right here, right now. Enter into and live the 7th day. May God bless you.